Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to another installment in the Copper and Wood Chute Mountain Railroad. The project is coming along very nicely, nearing completion in fact. If you're watching last time, you will have seen me ballast the track. For this week's installment, I am going to pour the water, repaint the fascia, take care of a few miscellaneous tasks, and also give the railroad a full test. So without further ado, let's just head out to the workshop and get it finished.
Well, it's Monday morning. I got all the ballasting finished on Saturday and it's now nice and hard. The task for this morning is to get all the water poured. There are three areas, the main one being this river under the bridge. Then there is a cattle watering hole over the other side, and in the back corner a drainage ditch, although that is mostly a dry creek which will just be a series of puddles. The product I use for water is called Envirotex Light. It was originally designed for bar tops and tables, and it gives a see-through high gloss finish. Something I found out last time I used it, if you need a solvent, Xylol works quite well if it needs to be thinned for any reason. Before I can start mixing that, I need to build tape dams. I have another roll of masking tape. I need tape dams in 4 places. That's both sides of the drop flap, one over there and one at the dry creek where the drainage ditch runs off the front. I won't need one at the back because it's high ground. So let me just get on with that quickly and I'll be right back. Well, that is all 4 tape dams installed. One over that side, one at the far end, and 2 on the drop flap. I'm not going to do a lot of talking during this video because once I mix up the Envirotex Light, my only objective is to make sure that I get it installed correctly, because I basically get one chance to get it right. I don't want to be distracted while I'm doing it. I want to make sure I don't get too much water in here. I'm going to pour some down the middle of the river and let it find its own level. And if it doesn't make it all the way to the edge, the client is fine with that. In fact, he specifically asked for it not to go all the way to the edges. That's the largest body of water, so I'm going to do that first. Then I'm going to put the puddles in the drainage ditch at the other end. And lastly, I'm going to add some greenish brown paint to the cattle watering hole, because that's supposed to be really muddy and full of algae. I've already mixed up the paint. I used a mix of territorial beige and I think that's Christmas green. Yes, Christmas green. And that's a reasonable colour. I don't need much of it, but obviously I need to get the clear water poured before I pollute it. So I'm just going to turn the camera off, get to work, and I'll be right back. Well, I've now poured the water in the main river, and a very small amount in the 4 areas of the drainage ditch, just enough to give it some wetness. I still have a little bit left, which I have added the green paint to, and although it may look really dark now, that's because we're looking through a container that's 2 inches deep. Once it is poured a 1/16 of an inch thick on the railroad, the colour will be a lot lighter and a lot more translucent. Hopefully I've got about the right amount of paint in, because as I mentioned earlier, I basically only get one shot to get it right. So let's get this poured, and that will be the moment of truth. Well, there it is, poured into the watering hole. Actually, I think I could have had more paint in there because it's a little bit on the light side, but I think it's better to err on being too clear than too dark. Now, with all 3 areas of water poured, all I can sensibly do is leave the workshop until tomorrow. Well, I decided to come back out again this afternoon for a second pour. I felt that there wasn't enough water in this stream. With the slight thinning that I did with the first coat, it all soaked in underneath the rocks and there was virtually no visible water. I think this looks a whole lot better with a second pour, so I'm going to call that good. Well, it's Tuesday morning. I have left the water to go hard for a day. And it looks like it's a success. We have a very shallow stream and much smoother water in the watering hole of indeterminate depth. And this drainage ditch has the desired effect. Hardly any water in it, but enough to show that there is some. I have several tasks planned for this morning, the first of which is to touch up the fascia. That's always the case. Fascias always need to be touched up after doing any scenery work. So I'm going to get rid of the tape dams for the water areas, see if there's any sanding necessary behind them, and then remove all the hardware from the fascias prior to painting. Well, I have removed all the tape dams, and some of them did need a certain amount of sanding, especially this one. There was quite a lot of resin stuck on the fascia. So I've sanded all that off, and I need to get the spackle out and touch up a few areas. But I am going to be concentrating on keeping that screed as thin as possible so that it dries quickly, because I really want to get the paint on it this morning so that it has this afternoon to dry, and I can do a lot of other stuff this afternoon. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm just going to get straight back to work, and I'll talk to you later. I have now removed all the hardware from the fascia and repainted it. There's a few things I can probably do while I'm waiting for the paint to dry, but what I don't want to do is either kick up a dust or lean against it and disturb it. So I think I'm just going to leave the workshop for a couple of hours and come back later and continue. Well, there it is, with all the hardware reinstalled on the fascia after repainting it to get rid of all the marks. It's going to look a whole lot better now. I've also cleaned out the flangeways on the grade crossings, and I have fixed the turnout that was broken over by the soldering iron. I've still got to clean the track and hook up all the Loconet cables, and then I need to give everything a thorough test. So let me do all that, and I will talk to you again later. Well, I have now run everywhere over the railroad. Thrown all the switches both ways just to make sure I've got each one connected up correctly. I've run both ways through every turnout and on every inch of track. I've got most of the Loconet hooked up. Actually, it's NCE. They don't call it Loconet. Not quite sure what they call it, but it's the equivalent. I've got to go in and get my cable making set because I need to cut this wire and make myself two pieces so that I have another extension to get around the other side. Well, I have now cut the Loconet cable, made it into two pieces. I forgot to pull that one all the way through, so it's a little bit longer than it needs to be. I'm going to leave it like that, and I will just tie it up when I reinstall the railroad. I'm not going to redo it now because I might end up messing up the end. It's not a 100% success rate, and sometimes I can go through 2 or 3 connectors before I get one that works properly. I'm going to call that a day. I think the only thing that was on my list that I haven't yet done is to put the rest of the tools away and do a cab ride. But I got a load of stuff I need to take care of inside, not least of which being organising my trip. So I'm going to get that taken care of. The cab ride is a somewhat lower priority. So I'm going to sign off here, and I will see you next time.
Well, that's all for this week's instalment. Hope you enjoyed the video, found it useful or interesting, or both. That is this project just about complete as far as the construction is concerned. I still have to dismantle it, pack it up into a trailer, and head off to Arizona to install it. But before I do that, I'm going to record some cab ride videos for the benefit of my viewers. I will present those for you next week, and I hope to see you back here for that. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and bye for now.